Well, good morning. If you're visiting, we are journeying through some practical lessons of faith in the book of Mark. And so today we continue that series, and Jesus is going to teach us personally. I'm going to pray that he would do that. Often when we read scripture, we're tempted to think about how this would wonderfully apply to a friend of ours, or our spouse, or a coworker. And we want to ask Jesus to teach us and to speak to our hearts today. So that takes a work of God, so we're going to pray and ask God to help us with that. Let's pray. Father, we ask now in Jesus' name that you might guide us through your holy scriptures. You have not left us alone or abandoned us, but you have come, and your Holy Spirit is here in this very place. And you have given us your scriptures, which teach us your truth, your way, the way to life. And so we ask today that you might guide and guard our hearts as we listen, that you would inspire the proclamation of your word, and that you might bear fruit from it today in our lives. In Jesus' name, amen. Well, I can do it. I really can. But I have to be in a particularly tired state of mind, physically shot, defenses down, in a mood to just veg, and then I can and have actually watched a Hallmark movie. I say a Hallmark movie, because they're all the same. Boy meets girl. They fight and hate each other initially. There is a nemesis. They discover they are really in love. There's a lot of smooshy stuff. And then the nemesis is defeated. They kiss, they get married, and the credits go up as they live happily ever after. That is pretty much every single Hallmark movie. And usually the acting is lame, and you're just left wanting a romance that is the real thing. So come on, our sermon is titled, Is Religion Keeping You from Jesus? I came close to titling it, Is Your Faith Hallmark Religion or the Real Deal? And I think I actually did. I hope I don't get sued. Hallmark religion is what man does with God's teaching, just like they tried to do with love in the Hallmark movies. And in this section in Mark 7, Jesus is going after the Pharisees because of what they did. And it might be that what your church leaders have done with God's real message, that wouldn't include me, but other church leaders. So you have to be very wise, and you have to analyze whoever you listen to by the Word of God, because we have to develop a sense that we in fact are getting the real thing and not some kind of Hallmark religion. And you should do that here or wherever you come from. In Mark 7, it's a story of the real deal Jesus going after the Hallmark religious establishment of the day. He's exposing their Hallmark religion. Now, I hope this doesn't hurt any feelings of Hallmark lovers here, but I really don't care. A little loopy today. It could get worse, so hang with me. Mark 7 begins with the Pharisees just all bent out of shape. They're noticing that Jesus' disciples are eating with unwashed hands, and so they see that their hands are defiled. And so they were very sincere. They had very particular rules, very particular times in which you would have these washings, and Jesus was not following these washings. So the first principle I dig out of this text is that you can be very sincere and sincerely wrong. Now, these Pharisaical requirements were not from God's Bible. They were from something called the Jewish Mishnah, which was a written book of oral traditions. So they brought an oral tradition alongside of the Old Testament teachings, and they considered them of equal authority. And so if you were a good Jew or a follower of God, you needed to obey all of these rituals. And it was kind of a way of wanting to protect God's law. That's kind of their argument. So it'd be kind of like Hallmark trying to preserve true romance in the day in which we live. And so they come up with these movies, and it's just not working. And to be a good Jew, this was not suggested. It was commanded, and that's why they were ticked off of Jesus. Now, if you hate to wash dishes, you would not like the Jewish Mishnah requirements. They devoted 35 pages in the Mishnah for washing vessels and other daily implements. It turns out that 25% of the whole book was about cleansing and purity. So however sincere they were wrong. God's word was actually replaced by legalistic traditions. 100% sincerity, 100% wrong. So you might want to ask, where have we done that? How often are our beliefs and our actions based on inner sincerity? We just really believe that this is important, but we're sincerely wrong. We sincerely think that we need a new car, and so we go and blow our budget arguing that we need this, and then we end up arguing about our finances after the fact, because now we're in deep trouble because of our financial decision. We sincerely dreamed our romance would be like Hallmark movie, and then we found out it wasn't, except maybe in my case. We sincerely thought that if we did the rituals of the church, listen to me, that we would in fact be saved. We would be a good person. We would be forgiven. And it turns out that that's not true. Sincerity does not validate your behavior. Truth does. And that's a message that the culture in which you and I live needs to hear. In the slimy goo of relativism championing in our day, we would do well to check our sincerity and allow truth with a capital T to speak to our actions and our behaviors. That is the uniqueness of Christianity. God has spoken. We don't have to guess what the truth is. It's revealed in his Bible. He has spoken to us. He's not stuttered. He's made it clear. In fact, if you read through your Bible, there may be things you don't understand, but 90% of it's pretty clear. It's pretty clear to us. And we need to follow that. Mark Twain was quoted as saying, "It's not the parts of Scripture that I don't understand that trouble my heart. It's the parts that I do understand." And that could be the same for us today. So we need revealed truth. Who has the final say in your life about what is true? Harry may be an abuser of drugs, but I love him. And I feel that we should be together. Well, you might be sincere. That might be a dead wrong decision. As long as it's two consenting adults, it's no one else's business, right? Yeah, Jesus maybe would differ, I think. These are my kids, and I'll do with them what I want. I think Jesus might differ. If you do the sacraments and follow the rituals, you will make it to heaven. Read your Bible. See what Jesus says. If you're struggling with the sin in your life, you're going to go straight to hell. Jesus might differ. If you don't sing all the words to all the songs with your hands raised up high, and it doesn't matter if you've had 8 shoulder surgeries, do you love Jesus or not? And if you do not give a lot of money to the church, and you don't drink your coffee black and have to put stuff in it, and if your children are not like obedient robots every Sunday morning, then there's a problem, and you need to get your religious act together. Now, in some churches, they might say that not quite as strong, but there's rules. See, God means for us to have a very close relationship with Him through Jesus. That's the most important thing in the Scriptures, and we are to enable people to get that and to not inhibit them from coming to the truth and being set free. And it's not rituals, it's not programs, it's not sincerity, but the truth of God that maybe needs to drive you to a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. Second principle, Jesus is always interested in your heart. So if He's not interested in rituals and sacraments, what is He interested in? Well, He's interested in your heart. And one of the ways that He gets to our heart is that He exposes our heart. See, Jesus will expose our hearts and our hypocrisy to win back our hearts to Him. He calls the Pharisees hypocrites. Jesus can be direct. I'm sure they were ticked off by that. Well, did Isaiah prophesy of you, hypocrites, as it is written, this people honors me with their lips, but their heart's far from me, and in vain do they worship me, teaching as doctrines the commandments of men. The word hypocrite comes from the art of the theater, and the word means to play a part. Actors wore masks, depicting themselves as someone they weren't. In the Bible, a hypocrite is someone who voiced great sentiments that were divorced from the intentions of their heart. And so we have to ask today, are you a spiritual actor or the real deal? Jesus wants to know from each of us this morning, are we those who honor Him with our lips, but our heart is far from Him? That kind of stings. A spiritual hypocrite replaces God's truth with man-made teachings, or get this, with statements that you have told yourself. For example, because of what I have done, I could never experience the love of God. And so I come and I worship, but I don't feel loved because of my past. Now, you're very sincere about that. And you have a feeling about that. You don't feel loved. But there isn't a drop of truth in that belief from the Scriptures. Do you know that what you claim to know does not translate into what you actually believe? I picked this up from our Conqueror series that we're taking some men through. Probably everyone in here knows a certain amount about the Christian faith. And so you say to people with your mouth, I believe this. But no one can act inconsistently with what they actually believe. So the person who felt unloved would say, I know about the God of the Bible. I know that God is love. I believe that God loves me. Do you really? You know that He loves you. But if you are here and you're saying, for me personally, I don't think He does, then you don't believe that. You just know about that truth. You don't believe that. And so there's some lie or some wound or something that you've set up in your mind that is keeping you from the biblical truth. So the husband who has his nose glued to the television and his wife is crying out wanting to be noticed, and he goes, I told you I love you. You know that I love you. And then he goes back to his video game or his show or his hobby and never spends time with her. She will conclude that his heart is far from her. So the question for us today is our heart far from God? Would God say to us, your heart is far from me? Jesus presses his complaint. He uses this illustration comparing the fifth commandment, number 5 out of the big 10 that God gave us in Exodus 20. The Pharisees came with this thing called the Corban vow. So they would have these people who were saving their money to help their parents, and they would come and say, well, you should give this money to the temple and make a vow to God that you would give this money to the temple. And so these people would come and they would make this vow, and their parents would be neglected. And then if they wanted to get out of that vow, they charged them 50 shekel fine, which is a pretty steep fine to get out of the vow. So they actually annulled the clear teaching of the fifth commandment to honor your father and mother to enter into this spiel of the Pharisees to basically get money to them. This is called religious manipulation, or we might call it spiritual abuse. That can happen in our lives as well. I've known men who beat their wives with words and their fists because they believe they need to see that their wives submit. Now, maybe in the summer we'll have a series on relationships, but I can promise you that is not what submission means in the Bible. We are manipulating it. We're using God's name in vain. It's like when the older brother tells the younger brother, parents had told older brother, you need to do this chore. You need to take out the garbage. And so the older brother goes to the younger brother and says, Dad said you're supposed to take out the garbage. That's using the Father's name in vain. When we do that kind of stuff, it's spiritual abuse. When a pastor or an evangelist tells people that you need to give money so that you will be blessed financially, that is spiritual abuse. That is religious fluff. And it keeps people from the life-changing gospel of Jesus Christ. You would think that would be enough, but Jesus doesn't stop there. He goes on to say that the real problem is not out there. It's not all this rule keeping that's the heart of the problem. The real problem is boom. The real problem is in here. And so that brings us to our third principle. True defilement comes from within your heart. That's where the uncleanness is. To defile means to spoil, ruin, make dirty, profane. The religious elite were posturing a good, holy, pure life, but the real condition of their heart stank. And so Jesus is going to expose that. And he says it's not what goes into your body food-wise that defile you. It's not your stomach that's the problem, it's your heart. And Jesus said, do you not see that whatever goes into a person from the outside cannot defile him? It's what comes out of a person is what defiles him. For from within, out of the heart of man, come evil thoughts, and etc., which we'll look at in a second. See, this might sound crazy. To walk with Jesus in love and grace is a daily practice. It is so much easier to give people just a few simple rules and tell them, if you do these, you're good. So that's why someone who's, going to confession every week and saying, I got drunk again, And then they go out and they do it again because they can come in and say, I got drunk again, and it just kind of works for them. That's why praying 5 times a day and having certain rituals that you would do is easier. You just do those and you're going to get in. Why would the Mormons have young people who are so committed to going house to house in every town in Marshall? Well, if we set up a little system and said, if you don't do that for 2 years, you're going straight to hell. This is part of what you do to be a holy person. So I just want to say that rules are easier. It's much easier for a parent to just come up with this long list of don'ts, and then if your kid violates any one of those, you whack them, and you just, you can get on with your busy life, and we live by these rules. Rather than a relationship with your children, that's harder. You have to interact with them. You have to communicate. You have to work through problems. See, that's more difficult. Jesus is all about relationships. I'm not saying you shouldn't have any rules, but you get the picture. If all your cookies are in the rules basket, you've got an issue. And if your kids think that the whole relationship is in the rules basket, you have a problem. Because just like Jesus wants you to know that he loves you, and he still has requirements, that has to go all the way down the line. Relationships in the church with requirements. Relationships in home with requirements. The key factor is the love of God at work within us, motivating us. So is your heart right with God? Now, I just need to clarify something. In the Bible, when we want to talk about feelings, that's a different Greek word. It has to do with your intestines. You often feel things here, happiness and stress. A lot of people feel stress in their gut. When the Bible uses the word cardia and talks about your heart, it actually has to do with the seat of your thought and your will. So this has to do with your conscience, your thought patterns, and your choices. So when Jesus is talking about wanting your heart, he's talking about wanting the beliefs that you have to be hooked up with choices that you are making, behaviors that you are choosing, and thought patterns that you're developing. And he's saying to the Pharisees, that part of you is like just so polluted. And so he uses this in verse 21. He says that from your hearts flow evil thoughts. Now, this is an interesting word. Evil machinations, not imaginations, but machinations. This word means scheming or crafty action, the artful, intended design to accomplish some evil end. That's a really horrible word. And it's an umbrella word for this grocery list that follows, which are 6 evil acts and 6 evil attitudes. And they flow from this heart of ours. And so this is the part of our lives, our heart, that Jesus wants to get to heal us. You might be here today and you're like just really sick of having like one foot in behaviors that have just absolutely no glorifying nature to yourself or God, and then you have another foot in the church, and you're trying to be a Christian, and you're trying to straddle this. That is such a frustrating life. Jesus doesn't want that. That is hypocritical. So he's here today not to condemn you, but he's here today to expose our hearts, to get our heart, our will, our choices in a line with who he is. And so he speaks to us. So if you want a new life, if you want to be right with God, it's not about outward cleansings. It's not about screwing up and then promise yourself you're going to go to church, 12 times in a row. Or taking a bunch of showers in order to try and wash away your sexual shame. It's not about activity. It's about coming to Jesus. And so here's his 12 acts and attitudes. I'm going to run through them quickly. This is a sermon series in itself, but we can't do that this morning. What flows out of the heart? Sexual immorality is the word in the Bible, porneia. Can you guess which English word we get from porneia? You're right, it's pornography. This is lust, it's fornication, it's all sexual behavior out of God's design for one man and one woman in marriage for life. Theft, taking what is not yours. The word is actually klepia, which we get our English word kleptomania, which is this passion to take things that don't belong to you. Murder, it's a premeditated murder. He's not talking about acts of war here. He's talking about laying in wait for another person. Adultery, sex with someone not your spouse. Coveting, a hunger for others' belongings. Wickedness, this is the within us the ability equipped to inflict evil. Deceit, to bait others so that they don't know what's going on. Deception, by its own definition, you don't know what's happening when you deceive someone. If I lie to you, you can know that I lied to you. But if I get you to do something and you think it's right and don't even get it, you're being deceived. That's what that word is. Sensuality, unrestrained, shameless, and lewdness. Think seduction, think porn. Envy, an eye that watches other people's possessions. Slander, to show contempt for God or man. Pride, a self-praising person. Foolishness, this one really was an eye-opener for me. Desensitized morally, religious insensibility. So I thought, if you listen this far in this sermon and you're just like checking out going, I don't really care, I don't like hearing this, I don't like being told this. What that is, that's religious insensibility. You're being very foolish with that kind of thinking and maybe very prideful. God is in this place. If you've ever thought the church was full of hypocrites and you don't like this people putting on this show and you know stuff that's going on in their lives and you're here, you should really you'd be like running to Jesus on this point. You'd be like, man, Jesus is right. This is exactly what's going on. This is exactly what we need to do in our lives to change this and turn it around. So the scary part is Jesus is saying, we finally found out who the enemy is. It's us. You and I sitting here listening to this message could be the worst PR for Jesus that's out there. Because we might be showing up and praising the Lord, singing our songs, hearing the pastor preach, maybe in a small group, and there's absolutely nothing changing in our life. And he just wants to bust through all that. Just tear the paper mache away and look right into our hearts and say, I love you. I want to change that. I want to heal those areas in your life that are just totally off base with following me. Jeremiah says, the human heart is the most deceitful of all things and desperately wicked. Who really knows how bad it is? Now there's a passage. Jeremiah 17:9. See, that's a prophet saying that God knows exactly what's going on in our hearts, and we actually don't know really exactly. So I think until we face this music of really looking at our heart, we're really busy people. And we're fine with just jumping through religious gymnastics, and they might look different in another church than here. You might go from church to church, and you find a place that seems most pleasing to you, and you're finally settled in, and you go, this is, okay, I'm good here. Really? Remember, heart has to do with the choices that you're making. Is anything changing in your life, or are you just comfortable? See, the Pharisees were very comfortable. They thought they had it down. This might actually apply most to very religious people in evangelical churches who are jumping through all these hoops, serving and showing up in church and giving, and they go to bed at night thinking, yeah, I'm doing good. And it's like Jesus just wants to just tear into our very heart and go, really, what is happening in here in relation to your behavior? So the last point is only Jesus can completely cleanse your defiled heart, because you can't. Romans 3:23 says we've all sinned and fall short of the glory of God. So we're like, okay, I'm going to double down. I'm going to work harder. I'm going to clean up my act. I'm going to try harder. I'm going to self-improve. I want to go to church every week. I want to get involved. I want to give more money. And the problem is we are worse than your best effort to try and get your act together. Ephesians says you were dead in your trespasses and sins. Dead. Not wounded. Your spirit is like dead. And so when you have this stuff in your heart, even as a Christian, you're trying to walk around with like the corpse of your past, and he wants to clean us up. How do you make an impure, stained, dirty, defiled heart clean again? Well, it's not by sacraments. It's not by ritual bathings. It's not by showing up. It's not by trying to get more involved so that your conscience feels better. It's by doing a heart transplant. If you go into your fridge when you go home and there's a black tomato in there and you start thinking like, I need to fix this tomato, it's not going to work. You need a new tomato. And you and I need a new heart, a heart transplant. And God's here to give us that today. Ezekiel 36 says, and I will give you a new heart, and a new spirit I will put within you. You and I need a new heart. You are so valuable and loved by God that he captured this story in Mark 7 so that you just wouldn't keep walking through life thinking that everything's great the way it's going and still have that fuzziness in your head going, there's a lot of crap in my life, but I guess, okay, we'll go to church again and we'll just keep doing the same. No. See, we believe that Jesus Christ has powerfully raised from the dead. We believe that the shed blood of Jesus Christ, as Hebrews 9:14 tells us, that the blood offered of Christ, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself without blemish to God, will purify our conscience from dead works to serve the living God. That's a true passage in Scripture. That can actually happen. We can actually change. If anyone is in Christ, he's a new creation. Well, what about if I'm already in Christ? Then there's something going on between who you really are and what you're saying you believe. And we got to bring those two together. And that happens by letting Jesus journey in to the very inner recesses of our being and help change our heart, i.e., help us to actually choose to change some of our behaviors. Strip off the religious fluff to be cleansed and renewed. Jesus is tired of Hallmark faith. He wants his church to go after the real deal. And you and I need Jesus to give us a new heart. I can't do that, but he can do that, and he's here. So I got some questions for you I want to throw up here. Here's some homework. I want you to think about this. God may be working in your heart today. You might want to hang around and pray by yourself or with some people. You might want to write a commitment on that prayer card. You might actually have a specific prayer request about something that this sermon is revealing in your life. You need to take some action. Why would you do that? Because you don't want this service to be just another religious fluff in your life. God wants things to change. He wants you to be free. He does not want you coming in and having this actor's face of everything's great in my life. Good to see you this morning too. No issues in my life. And you and God know there are like big issues. So Jesus is like saying, let's go after that. Let's go after that today, shall we? So let's read through these, kind of pray through these with me. I need to let go of confidence in some ritual in my life. What is it that you just keep kind of going back to and you think that's going to do it for me? Try harder. Give a little more. Volunteer for something. Maybe God will love me then. You just got to give that up. The living God, look at me, does not love you any less today, knowing everything that he knows about you, and he knows everything about you. And his arms are like wide. He wants to embrace you. He wants to love on you and empower you to deal with this stuff. I need this in my life. I got some homework to do. I am guilty of lip service. I really need to change what in my life? Can you identify one thing maybe today that needs to change? To invite Jesus' resurrected power in your life to help you with that one thing? What is that? Put that down on your notes. Number 3, I'm asking Jesus to do heart surgery in my life. So there's the grocery list. Why did he pick these rather than other things? I don't know, but maybe these are like ones that he wants you to hear today. This covers quite a few things in our life. Which of these, or more than one, is Jesus going, you know what, I love you so much, I don't want you to go on carrying this. It's not about showing up in church and doing fluff. It's about letting me change your life. And so I want to invade these areas, some deep areas maybe of shame and guilt. And we can help you. If you're like stuck, you can put that on your card. I want to make sure our ushers are available at the end of the service just to take these tear-off cards. People can just throw them in there on the way out. We will pray for you. We will meet with you. I don't want you to keep going on. Jesus doesn't want you to keep going on. I need Jesus to bring healing to this wound in my life. Okay, remember when we talked about that? You've got like some things you know, and then things believe. And they're not the same. If I know these things, like I'm sharing with you today, and you are not living in accordance with what Jesus has taught, you really don't believe that. You maybe want to, but you're stuck. You know the power of prayer in your life? You know the power of taking an area of your life and just submitting that to the Lord? I would like that to happen to you today. I really would. You know, if I was God, I would just love you and wrap my arms around you. And I'd come alongside you and I'd say, you know, we get through this. You can deal with this. And I'm not God, but I think he's telling you that right now. That his presence is here in this place. And he wants to minister to you. So I want you to sing this next song with a prayerful heart. You might want to hang around and pray. You might want to come up here and pray alone. You might want to pray with the people that we have. You might want to write down something on your card that's planting a stake in your life that you're going to do something with this message today. God is here, and he means to draw us to his heart by exposing our heart. Let him do that. Well, if you remember times of walking with us, you know by now that we believe that no one should grow alone in their Christian faith. We need one another. So whatever it is God has touched your heart with today, you should share that with somebody. You should share it with me and the staff. You should find a group maybe. You need to begin letting Jesus take what you know and make it passionately what you believe. Father, I thank you for these men and women. I thank you that you love them beyond what I can. And I thank you that you are at work in our midst to move these truths of your Holy Bible from our minds to our very heart, which begins to be engrafted in our behavior. Thank you for loving us. I ask that you would go with us today. In Jesus' precious name, amen. Hey, thank you for being here, and enjoy the game tonight. God bless you.